This is Gregatron. I want to talk to y'all about this new Spider-Man movie for a second. I decided to make a review. It's been a while, but let me jump into this. First of all, the acting was incredible. Not just from the new timers like the new MJ and all of them, and Tom Holland, obviously, but it was just great to watch not only the characters. Oh, spoiler, by the way. Spoilers. I'm going to put that in the description on the title. The acting from Norman Osborn and Otto Octavius, that was outstanding. Just the acting, period. The whole movie just felt believable. Even though they're introducing the multiverse and all these different realities are possible and all these things can happen, as far-fetched as that might sound, that movie made that stuff super believable. And the acting just went along incredible with it. I can talk about the acting alone for 10 minutes, right? So, moving on, the special effects were outstanding. It's like everything from the older movies, the Raimi films, Raimi, all those effects from back then just got maximized in the last 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Everything from Otto Octavius' tentacles to the electricity with Electro, which he was from the Amazing series. I mean, Sandman looked decent. I was kind of questioning why is he in sand form the entire movie. I think that was for comical relief. Speaking of which, it was funny. It had its moments to be funny. It wasn't just funny to be funny. While I'm talking about humor, let me talk about the chemistry between the three Spider-Men. I mean, that chemistry was just outstanding. I mean, I can't even put into words how incredible that was when they were interacting with one another. My favorite part was when the three of them had to work together in the lab, not just the battlefield. But to me, that part when they were in the lab working on the serums, that scene was just as important to me as the final finale. Final finale, that's kind of redundant. The finale. When they were in the lab working together, communicating, bouncing off of one another, I was about to say they acted as if they knew one another, which they kind of did because they're all the same person. But just the way they bounced off of each other, that alone was just outstanding. I could watch that scene multiple times, but there's a lot of scenes in this movie where you can just watch multiple times. So the movie itself, I might see multiple times in the theater, right? Now, that's not the only scene, like I said. The scene on the bridge with Doc Ock and the Green Goblin when he showed up, the Doc Ock part alone gave me the chills. I mean, just. And Spider Man 2 is my favorite Spider Man movie to this day, but that might change thanks to this movie, right? But Doc Ock always had a warm place in my heart from that movie. And I remember him from the cartoon, but Doc Ock made that movie, in my book, Spider Man 2. And he almost did the same thing in this movie, but he wasn't the only person to me who made this movie. I talked about the acting earlier, but the characters, period, from Doctor Strange to Doctor Octopus to the three Spider-Men, obviously, to, who was I going to say, the Green Goblin. I mean, the characters were so heavy. Now, I felt the Lizard could have been a little heavier. To me, he just kind of felt like a monster. I thought the Lizard was going to help them out in the lab when they were working on the serums and stuff. But, man, I could talk about this movie for half an hour. I mean, let's talk about Peter Parker alone wanting to help these guys. People who he doesn't know from Adam. They really gave us a pure-hearted Peter Parker, right? He's young, he's naive. This dude was pure of heart. Everybody was telling him, you probably shouldn't mess with these guys. You need to send them back to where they belong. And once Peter found out, wait, they die if they go home? Hold on a second. We need to help these people. There's got to be something I can do. That alone, I mean, my heart dropped. I'm like, this dude is showing love to his enemies, knowing they could stab him in the back at any given moment. And I thought it was interesting with the box. I thought when Strange and Tom Holland Spider-Man, when they were trying to get that box with the detonator, I thought that this key could go off at any given point if it gets hit wrong, right? But obviously that's not going to happen for the sake of the plot. And that was kind of strange. No pun intended. But again, the lizard, I felt he could have been more of a scientist. Like, it would have been nice if he threw on a lab coat and helped them out in the lab. That would have been sweet. And even Jamie Foxx was cool as Electro, which I actually hated that movie, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but to me, he made so much more sense in this film. And then Sandman was cool too. So it wasn't actually the Sinister Six, it was closer to the Sinister Five. But, I mean, let me talk about Andrew Garfield for a second. They gave him some super decent screen time. The way he saved MJ, she's not Mary Jane, but I still like to call her Mary Jane. The way he saved our Mary Jane, that was taking me back to where his girlfriend, Gwen Stacy, got killed. And they had him save her in that way, specifically on purpose, right? That was dope. The way Toby talks about Uncle Ben, because for some reason in this series, they don't talk about Uncle Ben. It's like Tom Holland never had an Uncle Ben, right? Because it's all about Tony Stark in this series. But that's a different video. Maybe I'll talk about that later. But the way they finally talked about Uncle Ben, that was special. They finally said it. With great power comes great responsibility. I needed that stuff, right? But every time all three Spider-Man talked or interacted with one another, even when they were planning how to defeat these guys, right? Every time they interacted with one another, it was golden. You know what I'm saying? Some of it was kind of strange, kind of funny, kind of awkward in a way, but it was just so amazing, right? Because how would you feel if you're talking to different versions of yourself? You know what I'm saying? And they all look different. They're all different ages. This movie, the music went with it, and it was like super sentimental. Like, people were up here, I don't know, people in the theaters were crying, but I'm sure some were, but there's a lot of people in the movie itself crying. I'm like, dang, we got, our Spider-Man, he's gonna cry a little bit because he's a kid. But the other two, the adult Spider-Man, they were shedding some tears like throughout. I'm like, damn, y'all haven't gotten over this yet? But it just shows the trauma. Spider-Man, a lot of people don't realize, Spider-Man is built on some trauma too. Usually when I think about trauma, I think about Batman. Batman was built on trauma, but they did go over the trauma in this Spider-Man movie. And thanks to Green Goblin, the movie did feel dark. You know what I'm saying? It did feel dark. And it reminded us what great villains do. Because the last two movies, Mysterio and Vulture, to me, they didn't feel like too big of a threat. To me, personally. But We had Green Goblin with that laugh. I mean, man, that dude alone kind of carried the movie. But we have so many heavy characters. That's the word I used, heavy. We have so many heavy characters who carried this movie. So if one person was the weak link, I would say the weak link would probably be, let's just say the lizard, because he was just a monster. That was all right because Doc Ock and Norman Osborn, them guys still carried it. The three Spider-Man, they carried it. Doctor Strange helped out. I mean, Aunt May, like I said, y'all know there's spoilers. Aunt May dying, that was a big deal. I felt there was real consequence now. There was real consequence. Now let me fast forward to the future. We don't know what could happen now with Eddie Brock and the symbiote. You know, we had Eddie Brock get sent back to his universe, right? But we saw a piece of the symbiote linger on in our universe, meaning the symbiote, which I probably should say this for a different video, the symbiote could now find our Peter in this universe, and then it starts all over again. So now we can have a decent ass, good ass Spider-Man slash Black Suit slash Venom movie. I mean, they could do anything at this point. Really. I mean, all three Spider-Man, they could do anything at this point. But like I said, the music was great. The acting was perfect. It wasn't just funny to be funny. The comedy made sense. Everything fit in real smooth. I mean, the part when he fought Electro the first time, when he just took the power lines down, I was thinking, wait, wouldn't Electro still have some power left? It's like after he yanked those power lines down, he just powered down. I'm like, that's kind of weird. And that was kind of cheap. But I would easily give this movie like an easy 9. Easily. Meaning I would probably give it probably a 9.5. Like, and I don't even want to compare it to the other big movies, but man, I would say it's probably in my, because there's a lot of good movies out there. Top 15 easily, probably top 10. I would put it in my top 10, but I'll go over my list. This video's getting long. But like I said, great music, great acting, great action, great characters, tying up loose ends, good development, which the development was already there from the last 20 years. They just wrapped it up with a nice bow on top. I mean, they put the cherry on top and everything. And the whole Christmas theme at the end, knowing it's Christmas time. I mean, I usually don't get this excited about movies anymore, but that stuff was outstanding. Like, that was an event, that was a treat. And it's beautiful because, yes, Iron Man put the MCU on the map. There were some movies before that, but Iron Man put the MCU on. Yet, this movie couldn't be possible if not for those movies before the MCU. So they really found a smart way to put the MCU together with the movies outside the MCU. And that stuff just added up perfect. Hope you guys like my shirt. And I'm going to talk to y'all later. 9.5. Peace.